Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett, your Soccer Talk co-host, sitting a couple seats down from me from my pal Blake Sievers. Sieves, what's up?
Good morning, Ben. Another great day at the Iowa Girls High School Union State Soccer. Semifinal day.
That's a big day. That's a mouthful there. I never get it right. We're also joined here in the middle by our good friend and the Titan tactician, Matt Sahag. Matt, hello.
How's it going? Something's different about these microphones, Ben.
You like them? They're nice and green.
That's a good plug for our YouTube channel.
Yeah, check us out on YouTube if you're listening to us just on the podcast alone. You can see us sitting here live at the state tournament with our fancy new microphones.
We're also doing, real quick, can I plug the YouTube channel? We're doing a bunch of press conferences. So we've got 1A, 2A, 3A girls, boys teams coming up, coaches, players. We're asking questions. They've got teammates asking questions, some randoms asking questions. So check it out if you're interested to kind of see what the kids and coaches are thinking about after mostly wins.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a good time. So today, semifinal action for 1A is what we're here to talk about. Over on Field 6, you had Des Moines Christian against Underwood, that's correct. I watched Davenport Assumption against Nevada on the Field 9. Why don't you guys start and talk a little bit about the game you guys took in?
So real quick, can we just talk about how Underwood got there?
Yeah, of course.
First time ever at state tournament. So that's, to me, pretty cool. And on paper, they upset Dyke New Hartford. And the talk and chatter all day on Tuesday was, holy cow, who's Underwood from everybody? They've just beat this team with a bunch of top-level club players. So definitely a pretty cool experience, I think, for Underwood. But go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, congratulations to Underwood for getting there. I think they came up against a team that was just, to put it bluntly, just better than them. And I think they did their best to hang in there today, and they only lost 2-0 in the end. But Des Moines Christian was just simply the better side. So started off, I guess in the first half, player of the first half, the outstanding player was Sammy Webster Jr., central midfielder. In terms of just watching even the boys and the girls this weekend, it was the most complete performance that I've seen in a half by a player in terms of both sides of the ball and her decision making. So she started off in the game she would always make herself available. She often got it in the center of the field, running at players, and she played a couple of really nice passes in behind Underwood's back line. Particularly one went into Gianna Bennett early, the right midfielder, and Gianna ended up missing the chance. But I think what ended up happening, because Sammy was able to run at some players and place balls in behind, as the half wore on, Underwood's defense started to drop deeper and deeper. And probably about, I'd say, midway through the first half, Sammy got the ball. Everybody dropped off, and she just found herself with tons of time on the ball. She decided to take a whack at it and hit a nice ball, went over the goalkeeper's head in the net for a 1-0 lead.
Blake, you're over there too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We talked a little bit about the goal. We talked to Sammy. It was a good strike. Not, I don't know. 1-0, went over the goalkeeper's head, goalkeeper's outstretched arms. Unfortunately, I think goalkeeper's just maybe a step too high, but a decent little goal. And then Isabel Garcia hits the free kick that was a debatable cross or shot. So I think Underwood, that goes in. I think Underwood was a bit unlucky to give that second one up, and that's kind of deflating.
Well,
as a player, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, though, if you listen to the halftime interviews we did with the coaches, the Underwood Eagles boss was, pleased to be there. Just happy that they were in the tournament. They made it to the semifinal, and it seemed like they were fairly content to just keep doing what they were doing, and just happy to be there.
They had a big emotional win on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, they were up easily, and Dyke New Hartford made a comeback. So they battled and survived. And then they kind of run into the buzzsaw of Des Moines Christian and go down 2-0 after, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And it's difficult. It's challenging.
Yeah. You wonder, too, how many of the the Underwood players play soccer year-round.
And they're young.
And for what clubs and at what ages, there are several of those players on the Des Moines Christian side that play all year round, travel over the country, playing a lot of soccer. So there's nothing wrong with just coming up against a better opponent and having a tough time winning the ball, keeping the ball, or anything like that. I mean, it's impressive that they got there and they got through the semifinal.
And two seniors started the game, so maybe they've set some expectations for themselves. I think going into next year is like they should, and they want to be back. They've had the experience, they've done it now, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. What are you going to talk about second half at all, Matt? So I mean, it's 2-0 at halftime, and that's what it ended. But
yeah, I mean, I think I said to somebody at halftime, hey, if Des Moines Christian gets a third goal early here, it could be 5, 6, 7, nothing. And I wouldn't have been surprised if that would have happened. But credit to Underwood, they hung in there. I think part of the reason though too is Coach Webster did make some tactical changes in the second half. That was evident. Sammy was less sort of ambitious in terms of getting forward and getting beyond sort of into the final third. And then Isabel Garcia came into midfield, and he sort of just told his midfielders clearly to sit in there and pack it in. We heard that from in the post-game interview to make sure they didn't concede a second goal. But Isabel Garcia actually had a fantastic second half. She was ripping people up on the end line here. She had a lot of great crosses, a couple good services. I'd say if there's any part of the performance from Des Moines Christian was lacking that is going to be needed in the final is finishing. I mean, they had shot after shot after shot that you would have liked to see go in or at least be on frame, and I think those are going to be the interesting moments in the final to see whether or not they can finish some of those or whether or not that leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of their performance. So the other thing I'd say too is so Jenna Roberts, I believe, is everybody calls him number 9 center forward these days. I don't know if they've done it or not, but I thought Sammy and Isabel, they combined really well in central midfield. I've always thought Isabel's best position is down the center of the field, and I wonder if she's played at all in that number 9 position, because she's so good with her back to goal, and she's able to turn players. And it seemed like with Jenna Roberts, she was best when she was running onto the ball. So I wonder if that would just be my only observation in terms of tactics, in terms of maybe a little different way to look at things. But I tell you what, Coach Webster's got them playing well and in the final, and
back-to-back
we'll
years.
See what happens.
Yeah, back-to-back years in the final.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of back-to-back years, try back-to-back years for Davenport Assumption. They're being their 6th straight final. They have not lost to a 1A opponent since 2015, and under current coach Elizabeth Moss, they are 33-0, probably now 34-0 in postseason play, maybe 35-0 now in postseason play. So
everybody that save your money, you don't need a program, because Ben just read off.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, well, I also shout out. You gave the shout out for some of the stuff we were doing. Let's give a shout out to the Iowa Girls Union. It's interesting to see the juxtaposition of the two tournaments, the boys tournament, the girls tournament. The girls the Girls Association does a great job, and their programs are top notch. They give a lot of information and makes us sound a little smarter. So
so do go by the programs actually, right, Blake?
Yeah, support the union. Sorry, there you go.
Yeah, so I walked over to catch that game about midway through the first half, and it was 0-0, and it would stay that way throughout that first half. And I don't know what that first 10 or 15 minutes looked like, but the last part of the half was pretty even, but with Nevada maybe carrying it just a little bit, getting some chances, nothing clear cut, but putting some stuff on frame. They had a couple of players in midfield that were pretty good that are going to go play. One's going to play at Graceland, another one's playing at Simpson. I should probably.
Savannah Skaggs is the Simpson one.
Yep, exactly. And Hannah Waldera is going to play at Graceland. Hannah Waldera was sort of sitting in there as they say, the 6, Matt, playing the holding midfield role, and was doing a good job breaking things up and kind of keeping, basically keeping the ball from getting out of their possession. So halftime came. Blake and I had a chat. What'd you think about the halftime chat, Blake, with the coaches?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think Assumption was a little bit frustrated but didn't want to outwardly show it, and I think Nevada was thrilled to be where they were at, 0-0. Again, going up against a powerhouse in Assumption. So I think rightfully both teams had the proper mindset there and the proper thoughts and reactions, one being frustrated a little bit and one being thrilled where they're at and giving themselves 40 additional minutes to figure out if they could figure out a solution.
Yeah, and it was clear that whatever was said at halftime to the Knights of Davenport Assumption, it made some effect because they came out and they were all over Nevada. Some standout players for Assumption. I mean, you can't not mention Jay Jackson, who's a senior striker going to Minnesota State, and then you've also got who was it? Well, Drew Dorsey, freshman. She scored the goal. Turns out, as I'm like reading through the program again, great program. Her sister is the goalkeeper, senior. So you've got a senior and freshman playing together. Blake and I were talking yesterday. That's one of the really neat things about high school soccer is you get this opportunity every once in a while to play with your siblings. I know Matt, you had that opportunity too. It's kind of a neat thing, right?
Yeah, it is fun. I mean, especially looking back on it. So I had a brother that was a twin, so we got to grow up.
So
playing sports through our lives.
Less so.
It was fun.
Hopefully you were on the same team as him, but you never know.
Actually, once I wasn't. I made the B team and he made the A team. That was when I was like 13. But then when it all ended up, I was obviously better, so it's okay.
Obviously. Another player that was a bit of a standout was Grayson Ruggles. She's going to Tulsa next year. She played in the middle of midfield. She was really moving the ball, hitting some nice diagonal passes. And I was really impressed with the relationship that Jay Jackson and Drew Dorsey had up top. They were combining pretty regularly. Who was the other one I liked was the number 18, Macy Ripslinger, sophomore. She was playing on the left side of midfield. And
that's speaking of siblings, that Rosie from a few years ago who scored, hundreds of goals. I think maybe the all-time leader in goals on the girls' side. I'm not sure where she went to school, but she went somewhere and played.
Well, fair enough. So they end up, the pressure was mounting. They score a goal on a corner kick. Great ball from Ruggles, headed home by Drew Dorsey, just kind of a bullet header. And they kept putting pressure on after that, but eventually it sort of faded out, and maybe that last 10-15 minutes, Nevada was getting a little bit of belief in themselves and really pressing for a goal. I believe the goal scorer was number 17, Contessa Boric. My understanding also, because I may have been looking away at the time, was that it was a rocket from distance into the top corner. So that equalized it with about 5 minutes left, and so we got a little free soccer. Double overtime, nothing, went to penalties, and you boys came over for that. What'd you think about that? It's a heartbreaking way for either team. It's always heartbreaking for the team that loses. It's a tough way to win. What'd you think?
Great penalties to start. Top half of the goal, a few of them, and then the Assumption goalkeeper, Dawson Dorsey, came up with the save, and then Nevada unfortunately missed one, and there you go.
Yeah, in the end, I think it's probably for Nevada, for all the players who missed, it's nerves, and it's just I think for most players that I've seen miss penalties, including the boys last night, instead of just picking a corner and going there with a side foot, you're trying to hit it too hard and you whale it over the bar. So,
look how many people were there, though, right? We're on the stadium field, Drake Stadium Field. Dallas Center Grimes and Xavier are getting warmed up, so they're all watching. All their parents are watching. Des Moines Christian has come over. They're all watching. All their parents are watching. So all of a sudden, the crowd has tripled in size, and talk about nerves.
All the cameras as well.
Yeah, the camera guys just ran up right on the field.
Yeah,
except for our guy.
So yeah, so in the penalty shootout, I think it was really a little bit of tail of the goalkeepers, right? Because Maddie Dunham for Nevada had a nice save to deny Jay Jackson from at a certain point winning it, and then you also had goalkeeper Dorsey for Davenport Assumption make a really clean save to her right on one of the second or third penalty.
That's where it changed.
Yeah.
When she makes that save.
And it is a stonewall save. She just
she guessed right. She went down low.
Yeah.
She got down low and saved it. It's just a good save, and that's what won it for him, I think.
Yeah, and then ultimately we see Nevada step up and miss their last shot. Unfortunately, they lose and basically cap off a great season. I assume they come back. They come back and play a consolation, or they stop doing that finally.
I think they finally stopped doing that.
Oh, good. That's the worst, having to do that. So they'll be pleased with their semifinal result, with their semifinal achievement this year. And I'm sure they'll be back next year looking for a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think watching the 1A overall, I mean, clearly the two best teams, I think it's fair to say, are definitely in the final.
Yeah, 100%.
The common opponent is Nevada. Both teams won essentially 2-1. Des Moines Christian beat Nevada earlier, and obviously Assumption just beat them today, albeit in a shootout.
Yeah, and I think just for whatever it's worth, I would just like to give credit to the 1A girls game, because just as a whole, I mean, I think it's been some decent soccer, and I was just saying to Matt, like, even compared with some of the 3A boys stuff we saw last night, this Assumption Nevada game I saw had a lot more going for it in some sense than some of the stuff we saw yesterday, and so it'll just be interesting to see how that changes. Hopefully the boys will impress us tomorrow. Otherwise, Saturday. We'll be here taking in Davenport Assumption against Des Moines Christian. Big rematch of last year, and potentially Davenport Assumption winning their 6th state title, or Des Moines Christian spoiling the party.
Let's get to 2A, Ben.
Let's do it. And we're back at County for a little 2A recap. We're here at the girls' tournament. It's cooling off a little bit right now, but it was hot there during the game. The sun was shining, and not a cloud in the sky. Now we've got some pretty fluffy clouds out here, giving us some shade, Siebes.
We do. I'm not complaining.
Not at all.
Coldest state tournament in the history.
I know. We really should do some research on that to verify, but I kind of feel like there's no doubt about it. So 2A girls. What do we see here today, Siebes?
So we had Dallas Center Grimes, who knocked off North Polk, moving on to play Cedar Rapids Xavier, who beat Spencer. So they were on the main game field. You watched most of that game.
I was gonna say, I suppose that was where I was, wasn't it?
Yep, DCG local, our local team. You were over there at that game.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit.
It looked like a cagey affair there for a bit.
Yeah, first half, Cedar Rapids Xavier, who came out and scored first, actually, which as we talked to boss Dan James at halftime, he kind of made it sound like that it was sort of a common theme for the squad, where occasionally they come out a little sluggish, and kind of try to feel the other opponent out, and it doesn't always work out for them. But when it's all said and done, they got scored on, found a way to fight their way back in the first half, and tied it up 1-1 going into halftime. I walked over about halfway through that first half, and it really was kind of all DCG, despite the fact that it was 1-1. That said, talk a little bit about our chat with Chris Higgins at halftime. He seemed pretty optimistic, felt like they were in it, and no doubt about it, they were.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was obviously happy and thrilled going up 1-0, but thought they were in it. Which they were 1-1 still at that point. And again, they've been there before. They've been here semifinals in the past, so nothing new for them. But unfortunately, maybe the DCG girls got the hairdryer treatment at halftime, because they came out buzzing in the second half.
They sure did. It didn't take but maybe 10 minutes for them to get that go-ahead goal. Sort of I don't know if you want to call it a looping shot or kind of a spoon shot, a high ball coming in at the goal, and the keeper just, I don't know if she lost it in the sun or just what, but it made it 2-1 pretty quick. And man, our sound guy's having a heck of a time.
Yeah, you can just take that umbrella out of
there. Anyway, so that made it 2-1. The DCG girls seemed pretty fired up. The Xavier Saints, their backline was really strong. They had some standout defenders, I thought. I'm going to try and rattle off a few names to see if I get it right. 18 was playing right back, Alyssa McClear. Center back, I think, was number 11, Allie Weisenhofer. And then I think the number 3 was playing left back, Eden Campbell. But they were feisty back four, and they had their hands full, because that Avery Korshing number 4 for DCG. She is a handful. She is running with the ball all the time, constantly looking to get behind people, constantly looking to combine with her teammates, and always trying to score goals.
Yeah, and you said, though, the Xavier backline liked to put in a good tackle, didn't they?
They did. There were some feisty challenges.
But ultimately, DCG kind of put the foot on it, and they're undefeated for a reason, right?
Yeah, well, and that Avery Corshing did a really nice job to get that third goal. Some great work on the right flank by her, and she served in a really tasty ball. And I could not tell you who scored the goal on the back stick, but it was a great run and a great finish to make it 3-1. And it was pretty much over after that. DCG even resorting to taking the ball to the corner and just trying to keep possession and slow the game down. So I think DCG is going to be really tough to beat. But that said, they're going to have their hands full in the final, right, Blake?
Yeah, so they take on the Waverly Shell Rock and Norwalk winner, which Waverly Shell Rock came out on top 1-0, and actually a great game, great semifinal, 2 pretty evenly matched up teams, and it was a good little game. So you had Macy Smith for Waverly Shell Rock scored the first goal, and Norwalk, everything tried to go, which they're, I don't know, probably the right way to go, but through that JoJo Bice, the center forward there for the Warriors, who...
So were they able to just keep her quiet?
Yeah, I mean, so again, it got there was tackles going around, so it's 1-0, and obviously as the time dwindles down in the second half, Norwalk is pressing, being super direct. Shell Rock essentially just kind of drops off and says, hey, try to be creative enough to get through us or to play around us. Unfortunately, Norwalk couldn't find that final pass. But you want to talk about some goal line scrambles and some just absolute battles within the 6-yard box, 8-yard box. I mean, there were 2 or 3 there in the last 10 to 12 minutes where we talked to some of the Waverly Shell Rock girls, Morgan Akey and Lindsay Overman, and ultimately the goalie, Caitlin Egna, but didn't have a clue what was going on because there was probably 14 bodies within a 3-yard by 4-yard square, and obviously Norwalk's just trying to smash the ball home. Shell Rock's trying to just literally kick it anywhere but backwards in their own goal, and it did. It made for a pretty exciting, eventful game. I mean, Shell Rock started going to the corner, which, again, we haven't seen that really at all this week, I don't think. But with about 6 minutes to go, they're like, all right, let's get to the corner, which they've learned that or been taught that. There's something that's different, which is smart. That's what you got to play, especially when there's a running clock and it ends at 0.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, I've been impressed today, especially with these two all the teams that we've seen win have seemed like they have a plan. I saw a couple training ground routines for set pieces today. I've seen a lot of combination play. It's not like I think sometimes high school soccer gets a bad rap, and girls soccer gets a bad rap occasionally. And man, this has been some good stuff. I think
that's probably why they're in the semifinals, and you would think right in the finals now. The teams that go through, they've clearly put in the work, and I don't know, the people on the sideline, knowledgeable, and a lot of them, most of them have been there, done that, and they're experienced, and clearly have found the recipe for success down here at County.
Yeah, I love it.
We got a tasty 2A final, though, don't we?
We
Speaking
sure
about
do.
Tastiness.
Yeah, well, and so you got DCG beat Waverly Shell Rock at the beginning of the year 1-0. And then Waverly Shell Rock has gone on to give up 2 more goals the entire season. So 3 goals on the entire year.
Not lose a game.
Haven't lost a game other than that first one. So, I mean, we talked about the revenge tour in a couple other divisions, but this seems like a nice little deal. And then you've also got Waverly Shell Rock being the defending champion. They've got a little bit of a target on their back as well.
Yeah, I mean, rematch, right? Like, Shell Rock beat DCG last year in the final. And let's see, I love it. Like, battle of two teams that have been here, done that, and we'll see who can kind of come out on top.
Right on. Well, it's just about that time for 3A action to start, so we'll transition over, maybe get a glass of water in us to stay hydrated, because the sun is back out.
All right, well, let's get to 3A then.
Let's do it. Live at County Soccer Complex here in Des Moines. Just got done taking in the 3A girls semifinal action. It was a beautiful day here. It's starting to get a little sunny. I've been burning a little bit. Blake, what about you?
It's warmer in that stadium field, but it's 5:30 and everything's wrapping up and done. So good end to our day. A little early. So
let's talk about how hot it was on the championship field. We had a hotly contested match between the Jaguars and the Tigers. We had a little Central Iowa Safari, if you will. We wanted to give a shout out to the Valley Tiger supporters section. The boys over there were dressed up like they were on safari with like binoculars and hats and stuff. It was pretty good. So honorable mention, still not quite matching up with the Des Moines Christian Lions supporters group, but neither here nor there. Let's talk about some of the game. Blake, what do you think?
Good game. We got the Titan tactician here. Let's not waste his time. Let's get his thoughts. Let's get right to it.
All right, Seg, what did you think?
Well, I think so. I don't mean to jump ahead here or anything, but the game went to penalties, so I'll back up to the beginning of the game. But
there's a tease. Everybody's going to have to listen to the end of this to see what happened.
Yeah, the game goes to penalties because there's not chances in the game, right? There's 2 chances, there's 2 goals, and so my first observation is as a high-powered sort of offense that Valley has been all season, and for some of the players that they have. In their front 3 are players that probably have scored 30, 40 goals this season. For them not to take opportunities or really have any chances on goal is remarkable. The only chance of the game really came from their holding central midfielder in Avery, and she received the ball in the first half, turned and struck a missile that dipped over the goalkeeper's head. Other than that, I don't know if you guys can think of any chances, but I can't think of one that we said, ooh, that was close. And so
the only other thing
that's a problem for Valley, I think.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree.
What was the only other thing, Blake?
I didn't know what he was talking about, so that's why I shut up.
And I would go back to I think they don't create chances in a game like that based on how they move their front 3 move up front. I think that's it's that simple and that easy.
I was going to say, I thought their play through the midfield wasn't bad. Like they are pretty regularly looking to play forward. A lot of the teams we see play, they're playing back and square. Avery Galloway's hitting long diagonal balls, and they're looking. I don't know who the other player was in there with her, but she was looking and actually hitting the forward's feet every once in a while, as opposed to just trying to put them in behind. It wasn't happening all the time, but. You're right, though. I don't think that the movement from the front 3 was enough.
Yeah, the standout player, or one of the standout players, I would have said that the standout player for Centennial was number 7.
Kovacs.
Courtney Kovacs.
For the entire game until we got the penalties, right? Because there's obviously another standout player there. But when you have a player like that at the back that's big and strong, you have to get up against her. And use her physique actually to maybe hold the ball up or play back in the midfield or even roll her. If you come into midfield,
rolled her that one time, right? Got past her, and that's got her booked because she's so tight to her, and it was a great turn. But that was the only time it happened all game.
Right.
Well, and then there's
apart from that, if you as a striker have her on your back and you come even 2 or 3 yards off of her to go receive the ball, you are going to get set up to get crunched every single time, or she's just going to allow you to play back into midfield and just drop off.
Or she's going to come too tight and you're going to roll her.
Yeah, and she's going to have a walk in the park, and I think that's what happened for 7. And every time that she had to make a challenge, she was always in a really good position to come forward and meet the ball, because, and we talked about this yesterday, but when the ball goes backwards, the strikers automatically just watch the ball and follow the ball. When the ball goes sideways, we talked about it. The strikers are running into the channel already. The other thing is, I think your wide players, when you play with 3 up front, and Weingarten played on the left a little bit, Fancher played on the left a little bit, and they interchanged a little bit. But like, for example, when their center back gets it, number 25, or when Galloway gets it, and she looks up and she can't go forwards, and she looks left, and the wide player is almost square with her, either they're too far deep, because even if she gets the ball there, she's got 80 yards to run. And you got to think of this very practically. When you have the ball and when you're set up, if you want to score, get yourself in a starting position where you are closest to the goal that you want to score at. Because if their left and wide mid players press up the field, it opens up the left back and the right back. And I want to talk about the left back too. Maybe you guys can talk about it too.
Yeah,
I just think that's the difference for Valley in that game.
Yeah, for sure. Tactically, I think you've hit it on the head. Why don't you talk? Let's just the three of us talk a little bit about some of the standout players. I'm going to go ahead and shout out my Valley Tiger left back as a left back fan and aficionado myself. Number 14, Alon Litt, sophomore. She was a stud. She had whoever was playing on the right side of the field in her pocket.
There was that time, right, 6 times in a row, Avery Porter,
yeah,
who's a really, really good and dynamic player for Centennial as a winger.
Yeah, and it was like literally 7 times in a row we were sitting there as the ball gets pinged out to her, and she was getting shut down over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think you described her. You said, man, she's a little problem solver, isn't it? I think that's the perfect description for her. She had a solution for everything that was sent her way. There was even one time where she received the ball and she just kind of cut it across and started going into midfield, and she had players in her own team screaming at her to get rid of the ball, and she's just calm, cool, and collected. And she
switched the point attack,
and she's
no
out.
big deal. Yeah,
yeah,
the back four of Valley, I think collectively, I don't know if I've seen a better back four together, because the right back was Mallory Goldstein. Evidently doesn't play there a whole lot. She fit right in and was great. And when those four would connect a pass, because they won almost everything.
And then that was it number 25, the center back Anna Spain, who ended up going and playing up top a little bit at the end. Is that right? That's her.
That's her, and then Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, she was really composed on the ball as well, playing the ball out of the back. But yeah, that was one of the better back fours we've seen.
Probably, they just need
probably
to fix,
on the boys
they
and
need
girls
to fix
side.
their attacking third. Runs, tactics, what they do with it, their decisions. They'd be way more dangerous.
So let's cut to the chase and talk about the penalty shootout, because I think that's really the talking point.
Well, I think you got to talk actually before that is the 3 times that the ball went in the net for Centennial in the first half.
Okay, well, we can talk about that, and then we'll talk about
right, because those are some close calls. Or they call, I think one time they gave the goalkeeper the benefit of the doubt, and called some sort of call and gave it coming out. The second time, I think it was the third time the ball goes in the net, it's actually called offsides. And so the first time actually goes in the net, which is a goal. Valley's goalkeeper makes an error and tries and comes and gets it. She could have just stayed there, but the Centennial players did a great job of challenging it, the ball in the air, and just sweeping it up and collecting it in. And that's the difference when you flip over the other side of the ball, is that when the ball was in the box for Centennial, they were challenging it and they made things happen. Even though 2 of them were called back, they were in good positions to score goals. And so it felt like, I won't talk about the result yet, but it felt like they deserved to win.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it was also like there, as much as there was some good stuff happening, it didn't look like there was anybody that was going to win it in regulation.
Somebody out of us 3 called penalties when we asked.
Who was that? Was that Blake?
That was
Blake. Good shout.
Had penalties written all over it.
Why don't we talk about it then, Blake? But I know you were keeping track, but I mean, there's really only one storyline to the penalties, isn't there?
Kate Bergen.
Yeah, what a stud.
Unbelievable.
Saved every single penalty.
Yeah,
and a couple of them were well hit.
To be fair, one missed the goal, but she saved the rest, and she was very good.
Yeah.
Which is difficult, right? If you're going to try to take a penalty, you've seen what she can do. Clearly, all these girls know each other, and you have to now put it in a certain spot, which makes probably why the miss of the goal got at least maybe as a little result. I don't know.
Yeah. One theme I'd like to just point out is I've seen so many short run-ups for penalties, and how many of those have we seen saved?
Yeah.
A lot of them.
More than we've seen go in.
So what it looked like to me was, number one, Kate Bergen, is that her name?
Yeah.
So she has been in that situation a lot of times.
It seemed like
it. That was not just dumb luck, her saving the ball. She knew how and when to dive and how to pick her side, and she was looking at something because she was guessing right every single time.
That last save she made, she was already there.
Yeah. On the flip side, it didn't look like Valley had been in that situation before, and they haven't, right? Because they
showed
every
they
game
been,
before.
Right.
I mean, you can tell a lot by a player's walk up and then a player's set up to the ball. One of the players, this is tough for them, but she's kind of jumping up and down, and she's only probably 3 yards off the ball, and you're like, oof.
Well, that even happened
in
the one of the 2A games that we were watching. I can't remember which one it was now, but the girl that got up there, you could see her hands like she was fidgeting, like she was so nervous, and then she blasted it over, and it's like, oh man. And I don't know, I mean, when you're in that situation as a coach, maybe that's a quick chat about when you're a coach, how do you pick your penalty shooters, and then if you're a player, what's it like? Blake, how do you pick your penalty shooters?
I think you've had the conversation before.
You'd like to think so.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, especially coming to the state tournament. 2, you have to have people that can strike a ball, and then who is composed.
That was my thing. Is I used to always, like, even if we knew who was going to take him, it was like, okay, who's ready to take one? And there's always one kid that's like, I can't do it today. It's like, okay, well then you are not going to.
So for me, the best ball strikers for Valley, I thought, that I saw today, I know some of them. First of all, you got Van Weingarten, right? And unfortunately, it looked like she was injured. We know she was injured. Hopefully, she's okay. But gosh, if she kind of walked it off on the sideline, she needed to be back in because that's one of their best ball strikers. I take it back. She did have one really good chance.
Yeah. In
the second half, where she actually hit a missile that just kind of dipped over the bar.
Yeah.
But she's got to be a penalty taker, right? It's not if she's injured, it's different. Who takes your free kick? Galloway takes your free kicks. So, I mean, she's a really good ball striker. Fanter's a left footer. Would have showed Bergen something a little bit different, and she strikes a really nice ball, too.
Well, I thought it was interesting, too, because they had some of their younger players taking penalties, and a lot of times that's also, I mean, sometimes the younger kids don't know, so they're not nervous, but I think a lot of times it's maybe they're more nervous, right?
Everybody was watching, too, right? Ankeny, Abraham Lincoln, all those girls came over to watch.
Oh, and then the boys' teams were there, too, and they were being quite loud.
And, I mean, you got hecklers, which I love it. Great high school, but...
you got to have the hecklers because what an experience on both sides. You'll forever Valley will wish that they made the final, right? And forever Centennial will always remember getting to the final, right? And if they win tomorrow, then they're gonna even maybe they'll forget about that game. But like to be in that position where everything's on the line, you've got a stadium full of people, and you've got hecklers. That making weird sounds and stuff. I think I even saw one of the Centennial girls. I think they were just making these odd, weird sounds, the Valley guys, and she actually laughed it off and then buried it. It was that first girl who came up,
the second shooter.
Yeah, and she looked like she was just gonna. She came towards us, and then she turned her hips the last second.
Yeah, she sent her the wrong way.
Yeah, reversed it and shot a really nice strike. But I saw her literally laugh at the boys, and that's why she made it though, right?
Yeah,
her head was
confident.
Right. So for the players that missed, I would say, don't beat yourselves up, but you got to remember this experience because you're in that pressure pack situation.
Take a page out of Ty Juax's book, right?
Absolutely.
What did Dewey say yesterday?
Move on, make the next one.
Move it on, make the next one. It's pretty simple.
Yep. Yeah, and he fortunately had another 40 minutes to prove himself, so there's that, but. Let's move on and talk about.
Well, there's the redemption tour, real quick.
Yeah.
So we talked with Centennial on Tuesday. They're now called. They're calling it the redemption tour, right? Because they knocked off Waukee Northwest, who they lost to. Now they've beaten Valley, who they lost to, and they go to play Council Bluffs Abraham Lincoln, who
they lost to.
They hit a scud missile to beat Ankeny, by the way.
How many times has he found himself in the final? He used to be at Ankeny, right, Chris?
Chris Allen, oh yeah.
Yeah, and now he's at Centennial. How many times has he been in a final?
Well,
he's always there.
Something silly.
He's always.
There was some stat somewhere I saw. Something like he's been coaching for 14 years, and however many times they were there, and it's a lot of times.
Yeah. So congrats to him. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely doing something right. Let's just talk really briefly about the Ankeny Hawks. Or Hawkettes and the Council Bluffs Lincoln Lynx. We did not watch much of that. It was a very subdued game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I popped over because it was a little bit delayed for the last 7 minutes of the first half, and then I came back over for the end of the 5-6 minutes of regulation. And it was a totally different dynamic. It's still a heavily contested match, but the fans were quiet. You didn't have any hecklers on the side, and then of course you don't have both sides of the stadium, so it was a totally different feel, and it didn't. That game was always destined for overtime too.
Yeah. So you had 2 overtime games. That does tell you got probably the right 4 teams in the final or semifinals.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I think these games are always close.
Fair enough. So we're gonna be back on Saturday. We'll get to see the Centennial Jags take on the Council Bluffs Abraham Lincoln Lynx. That is a mouthful of a name. That should be a really good game. We've got a 2A matchup between I can't remember.
Waverly Shellrock DCG.
Yep, and then we've got Assumption from Davenport taking on Des Moines Christian. It should be a really good little girls lineup there on Saturday, and we're looking forward to it. In the meantime, I guess we're supposed to remember to shout out, check out our golf event. We're going to be having a golf event later this summer, August 19th. It's all over our website, www.kifsoccer.com. And then, of course, check us out on YouTube. We've got post-game press conferences from all the games today, along with some really cool video that we're going to be putting together, recapping the day. Check us out on Instagram. We've got some great reels going. Also, stories on Instagram have halftime interviews and in-game updates. So we've really kind of got it all going on, don't we, Siebes?
We do. Talk to you guys tomorrow.